Well, the red light is on, and you know what that means. But on today's episode, if you notice, looks like I'm flying solo. But you know what? I'm, I'm gonna keep it going because even though a championship culture, we like to talk about these wrestling belts, right? But in wrestling, sometimes champions hold gold over and over again, but others only get one shot, one reign, one moment that makes history. We're talking about those championship one-hit wonders, the wrestlers who had that single iconic run. Some of those reigns lasted months, some lasted just a single day, but they all got people talking. Who left a mark that we'll never forget? Which one was most impactful? And let's not forget, who's the one that we're still celebrating today? With all that being said, I think I said enough, and it's time to get to it. Welcome to the Wrestling World Presents Season 4 of Championship Culture. I'm Brandon the Guy Guy, and remember, every belt has a story. Now, like I alluded to earlier, there's usually another person next to me. I'm sorry, which way? Yeah, that way. And for some odd reason, that screen is blank. But like it says on every start of championship culture, it's Tuesday. You know what that means. So guess what? He ain't gotta be in the comments today because he is here with us today. Welcome, brother Justin, or
Woo!
better known as the Prototype 619, which if anybody's tuned into any episode of championship culture, you should know what the Prototype 619 is. It's not about John Cena and Rey Mysterio like I thought. But welcome, brother.
What's
Hey, we
going
might
on,
have to
man? How
call
you feeling tonight?
we might have to give you honorary has the third, or you can be has the other.
That's
We're
what I'm
gonna have
saying.
to
I
come up
was
with a
literally
name
going to
before the
come
end of
in.
this show.
I was going to come in and say I'm playing the part of Brother Hugh tonight.
All right. Well, what's that you got in your hand? Because before we, this show is going to be packed with a lot of information, a lot of things, a lot of conversations. And when I tell you a lot of things, that's probably going to get people to thinking because, there's 100 in your hand, but we're talking about one time. What is that in your hand, brother?
So we were sitting here in the sound check, and I'm a giant child, and I got distracted by this thing. So over Money in the Bank weekend, me and my little brother was out in LA. Here in championship culture, we say every belt has a story, but also every piece of merch has a story. So a
Hmm.
little story about this. We were at the Santa Monica Pier and it was at the little arcade in there. So we played the claw game. I never won on the claw game before. So my little brother tried, he failed, and I got this on the first hit. So I'm excited, like 100 tickets, like see what we can do with it. We go up to the prize counter and there's nothing in there for 100 tickets. So I took it. So I'm like, I'm leaving here with something. So yeah, this came on with me.
Wow. So you talking about a story that's and you were at Money to Bank, right?
Yeah.
So that's your little piece. You didn't get a John Cena spinner belt, but you got a 100 ticket
I did.
collector. You
Yeah.
didn't get the spinner,
So nah,
but it's
I
okay.
ain't, I ain't had a $500.
I don't blame you. 5.99, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm gonna say on that.
Oh yeah,
So brother just
650.
oh yeah, after taxes. So I know brother Hugh is literally he had to seek medical attention because he cut his finger when he was polishing the belt, so he could not produce the show tonight. So he's not with us. We're gonna hope that his pinky finger has a speedy recovery. He doesn't need stitches. So everybody in the chat, please make sure that you check on brother Hugh later on because his finger was pretty bad after he was polishing up his 12 belts that he took on the show. I mean, on the trip with him. And
Yeah.
another good friend of the show. Look who's in the comments already. What's going on, brother? How you feeling? Said, what's good, fellas? Going to peep y'all after the storm. Slash Fever there. All right. If anybody knows about Shannon from Boom Broadcasting, you want to know anything about sports? Just one, check out Boom Broadcasting. They do an awesome recap about things. What I learned a lot just from listening to them. Some hot takes and everything, but guess what? We're gonna be all right, and we're gonna keep plugging you because Boom Broadcasting has everything that you need when it comes to sports and sports entertainment. So check them out on YouTube.com. I think X, Instagram, anywhere you can look for Boom Broadcasting. It'll be links to everybody that's part of that network. But brother, we are here
Yes, sir.
today for a certain reason. All right. When you think of one hit wonders, there's some people that automatically come to mind, and there are some people that you might have forgotten have been one hit wonders. And when I say one hit wonders, whether they in WWE, TNA, AEW, ROH, Independence, whatever it may be, they've held that title one time in that company. That doesn't mean that's the only championship they had, but this one hit made us remember them so much and talk about them and celebrate them right now, right? And we're going to start off with the women because, I don't want to put them in the middle of the show like they the mid card, the cooler match. No, we're gonna start off hot with the women, right?
Yes,
Because the
sir.
women's division has always been a thing where it was like, you might have thought, oh, they got a small amount of time, or they've got so much time they're still in the show, right? So it's only fitting that we start off with a woman who literally took WWE by storm when she debuted, because you talk about one hit wonders. The first one that comes to mind, and I'm gonna see if you agree with me, is Gail Kim. Now, when I say a one hit wonder, Gail Kim came in with pomp and circumstance where she actually, on her debut, won the women's title. Brother Justin, let's
Yes,
talk
sir.
about that. What better way to debut than to win the top prize for the women and say, look what I'm going to do? And this is something that has been attached to her career and her legacy since day one. Now, granted, she had a Hall of Fame career in TNA, but we're going to talk about this time where she was a one time women's champion. Her first match, her debut, she wins. Talk to the people, brother. How do you feel about this?
Well, it was if you want to show up with a bang, then there's no way to winning the championship on your first night. Like, I mean, you don't get no better than that. Now, crazy part is like you mentioned Gail Kim and TNA. Like that's where I remember most of her from. Like that was my first exposure to them because like during that time on Raw, if I'm not sure, I remember like her actually being there. Like, cause I didn't have a cable at the time. Like I was always a SmackDown kid because that was on network TV. So like I didn't really get to see that, but like yeah, if there's ever a way to go up in a bang, especially on a roster where you got women like Jazz, Lita, Trish Stratus, and they all holding it down, like really starting to like break away in the women's division, where it's moving on from like like the bra and panties matches. I mean, they were still doing that at the time, but like there was actually some girls in there that could really like get in there and go. And Gail Kim is one of the best of all time. So if there's anybody you can stick in there and be like, all right, I'm gonna plant my flag and I'm gonna spearhead this division and take over, then hey,
Now, you said a couple things that I'm going to touch on because you said about spearheading the division, planting a flag. During the hottest time in wrestling is arguably, and most people agree, is the Attitude Era, right? And during the Attitude Era, there was a certain style, a certain genre, a certain flavor that people were used to, right? And you talk about somebody waving the flag for the women. This is what the Attitude Era and that title and that woman Sable. A lot of wrestling fans, this was their first crush, and this was the first time they really paid attention to a women's title. So yes, perfect for the time because all eyes were on her. And was this a case of they striking while the iron was hot because of her popularity, or was this the right person at the right time? Because I think it was because you had to strike while the popularity was there, get the belt on her, get the focus, keep the focus on her, right?
yeah,
So, and when you think
absolutely.
about Sable, you can't deny the fact that she was the it when it came to that women's division in this time. And even though Gail Kim, fast forward, is later on, and people remember your debut match, we remember this about Sable, that she was the women's champion. Talk to me. Was this a case of striking while the iron was hot?
Honestly, I think it's both. Like, so it's like, of course, she was hot at the time. Like, the most over woman in the company, and then the fact that like there wasn't really that many women in the division at the time, so it was a matter of like also being the right person. So like, why not put your women's championship on the most over woman in the company? Because I would say, because Sable was it. Like now, 1999, like I was still about 3 years old, so I ain't get the,
You got to
I
enjoy
ain't
it
get the,
after the
I ain't
fact.
get to really enjoy it like y'all did. But like, I still like to at least go back and like take a look at history and everything. But like, I still understand like what she meant for that time. Like, you think of like diva, Sable definitely has to be at like the top of the list. Like Trish Stratus, Sable, and Sunny, if you want to go even a little bit more back, like when you really think of like the most over women divas in the industry, like can't go wrong. So yeah, she was right place, right time, and the right person to put it on.
Right. If you think about 1998, where wrestling was mainstream, yes, her reign turned into one of the biggest mainstream stars because she was just as equal as Stone Cold Steve Austin was doing for the men. She was mainstream and it transcended to the point that the wrestling audience and the casual audience knew who Sable was, whether she was the women's champion or not. And I feel like it was a time that, if she didn't have it, it may not have brought eyes to the product. It brought eyes to the product, but had she not been champion, it might not have brought that much, that, that extra additive to it. And it's insane because even though that was her only reign, and when you look at somebody like Gail Kim, who only had it for 28 days, but when Gail Kim had it, we knew, okay, she proved herself, but then she had to go to another company to do something different. Stable stayed with WWE. And even to the point it was like, yep, that was our one hit at that time. Just like when you think about, and I'm a bounce around a little because I want you to think about this. 2021 was a time when we were coming back from the pandemic, right? Everything was trying to get back in. Love Nikki Cross to death, but she debuted a character called Nikki ASH. Won the Money in the Bank, cashed in, and became Raw Women's Champion. I'm gonna tell you something. I want to ask you this: do you think if that would happen today, it would have been more perceived better than it did back then?
Absolutely not. Because
No.
especially now, like there's so many more over women in the company right now, especially like the women's division right now is like the hottest it's ever been. Like there's so much like just great talent. And then with like a good I'm just calling it what it is. Like it was a goofy gimmick. Like I'm pretty sure I don't think it would have gone over as well today as it would have as it did back then. Because you say coming back from the pandemic, that shock factor. Like that's the one thing I can appreciate about it. Like just throwing something at the wall and like, oh, but nowadays probably not.
Okay, but then let me ask you this then, because we saw that happen, and it was kind of like she put the work in. We knew what Nikki Cross was doing. She had a new gimmick, a new character, and I think Triple H era does gimmicks better. And we saw that where in NXT he was trying to refine gimmicks and trying to define them because we saw one of the NXT stars come to the main roster, kind of keep her same thing as in Carmella, and she won Money in the Bank. Yes, it was the help of James Ellsworth. We know about that. What do you call him, Jim McGee? Um, but she cashed in on the biggest star that they had, and that was her one women's title reign, as in SmackDown Women's, not her tag team. I'm talking about her one that was like a bang because Money in the Bank winner defeated Charlotte. And this single reign kind of, we always said, okay, is she ever going to get back to that? No matter what the gimmick was, what it was, we always go back to those moments, right? So with that, was that reign worth it for Carmella?
Absolutely. I'd say you gotta. First of all, the cash in was great. I'd say I wish I could have gone to that show that night because I was in New Orleans. But let's say that was the tail end of the trip. I was exhausted, but like watching it on TV, like the setup of it was perfect, and then the fact that it was, let's say, if you want to cash in, like do it on like the biggest star in the women's division at the time, like Charlotte just coming off of beating Asuka at WrestleMania, like
And that was the year Oscar was Royal Rumble winner.
And
Charlotte
I'm
won,
sitting
and
there,
then the iconics
yeah,
helped her.
and they
But we're gonna
debuted.
remember that. Yep.
Mhm.
All everything surrounding, and that's what I think when it comes to this women division. It's those moments that make it stand out as that one hit. Because the last woman I'm gonna talk about, and if we could talk about a lot more women, but I want to get to the other titles as well because this is all sitting around the women's division, and I just want everybody to remember, with an honorable mention, of course, Layla being a one-time Divas champion and a one-time women's champion. That really doesn't count because I know there's a lot of things surrounded that. So we really can't call her a one-hit wonder but because she had both titles. But this superstar, who we see on Monday Night Raw, her gimmick made it so fulfilling when she won that title. You know, that whole Sky Pirate thing, the treasure chest, everything about Mae Young Classic, you name it. And for them to run it back a year later and for her to be culminated, I think that we're still holding on to, yes, we know what she did in Stardom. We saw what she did in NXT. She keeps being relegated to the tag team division. But this hit right here, when she was well, NXT Women's Champion,
Absolutely.
this is not a case of striking while the iron hot. This is just that you had a hot division and she was the next one up. Because Shayna Baszler being her dance partner was perfect. And the fact that they showed what they could do in the Mae Young Classic, they showed that they ran it back at Evolution. Everything about this was perfect for um, Kyrie Sane. Do you think we're ever going to get this type of Kyrie back?
I would love to see it. I mean, if they stop fumbling around with like the women's tag team division, because honestly, if it was up to me, like I would kind of just let the women's tag team titles kind of go off to the wayside and focus more on the like the women's US and Intercontinental Championships, because there's really not enough women's tag teams. So like, why not just go ahead, just let them go their separate ways? And I really think that if Kyrie really got like the chance she did in 2018, I think she could get back to that level again. Like that, something it's marketable. Like with the pirate stuff, I really think it could really get over nowadays.
And and that's where I'm thinking because that moment, and that's what One Hit Wonders is about. Because it's like, wow, we give it that moment, look what happened. Because yes, China was a two-time Intercontinental Champion, but she was only a one-time Women's Champion. And look what that moment did for the women's division. You know, defeating Ivory, it was because of that Dashley Hill. But she didn't make the list because it wasn't just one title, because she held a men's title, right? And as we talk about men's title, I kind of want to move to a space where it might cause some issues, right? And when I say cause some issues,
Start some
when
trouble.
you yeah, when you talk about sometimes two isn't better than one, right? And there's been a lot of tag teams that are one hit wonders. Now, let me just clarify what I mean. Yeah, you could have a makeshift tag team put together and they win that title once, but that's really not a one hit wonder like Rated RKO.
Mm,
Randy Orton and Edge. Edge have been a 746-time tag team champion. Yeah, they had a great moment when they were tag team, but they aren't a one hit wonder, right?
right.
Jericho. Jericho and Big Show that had tag team partners up and down everywhere in the WWE roster. Booker T and Goldust. We can name all of their, yes, RVD and Kane. How many times had he been? Kane been tag team partners with his brother. Um,
X
uh,
Pac.
yeah, Xbox,
Um,
Daniel Bryan, you name it, he had been tag team champions, right? So they aren't really one hit wonders. Now, their reigns with that one title, with that one partner, yes, could make this list. But I want to talk about people like the Headbangers, who in 1997 only had one reign, but that was like, if you think about the Attitude Era, it was just chaos, right?
right.
They are remembered for those type of moments, right? That's what makes them a one hit wonder. The Holly Cousins, right? They won the tag team championships one time, right? And how many times did you realize that? Oh, look at Hardcore picking on what you call it, because he was the young cousin versus the what you call it cousin, right? We're
Mm,
not really going to count Cody Rhodes and Hardcore Holly because that was random. But look how many
super
times Cody
random.
had been champion. Cody had been champion with Ted DiBiase because he actually beat himself in the match, and the Rhodes Scholars, all of that type of stuff, right?
I'll say, did him and Sandal ever win the tag team titles?
Did they? Oh, I'm sorry. No, they were just the Rhodes Scholars. They didn't win. I don't think they won the titles. Thank
Yeah.
you for correcting. See, this is why we
No,
do good in the comments because you
I was
always
genuine. I was genuinely serious. Like, I don't know if they ever won the tag team title together because I know him and Goldust won the titles together. But I don't know if him
right.
and Sandel ever won it together. In
So now
2013 was a
here
long
we
time ago.
it was true in wrestling years. That was like 50 years. But now
Hmm.
when you think about that, you got to talk about people like the Spirit Squad. They did their job because they had go away heat, right? They did their job because you didn't want to see them, right?
Hmm.
And when they got it, and if you think about it, it was like that's what a faction is supposed to do. Can't really deny it. And then look what we got from the Spirit Squad. Arguably one of the best workers, as he would call him, a 5-2 player in the business, right? You got
Hmm.
that from the Spirit Squad, right? But out of these one hit wonders we talk about, I'm talking about like the Headbangers, the Holly Brothers. We can throw Owen Hart and Yokozuna in there. But do we really want to? Because it was a makeshift tag team. They kind of fit in another aspect. We don't want to put Batista and John Cena because Batista had it with Rey Mysterio at one point. John
Yeah.
Cena always had it with his partner. Um, you really don't want to add those type of people. But which team? And I'm gonna say this because made the most history of being a one hit wonder. Was it the Headbangers because of the confusion of the Attitude Era? Or was it the Holly that made you feel like, oh, that's a good feel good moment? Or maybe it is one of those non one hit wonders, but the makeshift tag team. Which one do you think would be a more impactful one hit wonder?
Ooh, that's a good one. Honestly, because I don't know if like they won it multiple times, but I think would one of like the best one hit wonder tag teams. Now, if they didn't, anybody can correct me on it. But I think they only did it once was when Ray and Dominic won the tag team title together. Because like, how many times you ever
Yes,
going to see a father and son tag team
you're
champion?
right. I totally forgot about them. They did have it one time. Yep.
That's to say, because I don't know if they did it twice or it was one, but I know for
It
sure
was a
they had the one
SmackDown one, right?
together. Yeah. Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
let's
I
say
might
like
have
how
to
many
fact check
times?
that. Let me double check because I think they only had it once. But if anybody in the comments want to fact check, please feel free to. As we do a championship culture.
Yeah.
Sometimes we remember things a little cloudy because that was during the pandemic. But I will tell you that is actually a good example.
Yeah, because like if like you mentioned like the headbangers and the Hollies and whatnot, like I love them like growing up as a kid, but like that was just a matter of like shock TV because like no attitude there, like everything is going at 100 miles an hour, so you just throwing stuff at the wall and see what would stick. So I mean that was kind of expected at that time, but like outside of like impactfulness, I putting Ray and Dominic winning the tag team title together.
Yes. And they are one time. And um,
Mhm.
let's check out this comment because I did not know this. Backlash and Morales won the WWF titles only to be stripped of them because of the time Backlund was WWE champion and couldn't hold two titles back then. I did not
Oh,
know that. That is
or
actually
something
good.
new
We're
every
gonna
day.
talk. Yeah, we're gonna get to Backlund when we get to our world title, our world champions, I should say. But that is actually a good idea because I know back in those days it was different types of rules. And now that you say that, I think Dominic Mysterio and Rey Mysterio because look at what it propelled Dominic to. Rey Mysterio is a bona fide Hall of Famer. But if we really think about it, Ray has had multiple partners. So is that really that pairing is that one hit wonder, but not
As I
Ray?
said, don't forget
So
Dominic's a future Hall of Famer too. I'd say Dirty Dom, he gonna be that one
he said he's a 20-year vet.
future world champion.
He remember he said
Telling you,
he's a 20-year vet.
and
And
it's
I will
true.
say and it's insane that when you think about that type of thing, because you're like, we're seeing history being made right now. And what better time to be a wrestling fan? But
Yes,
now we
sir.
got to talk about a section of the championships that actually everybody should have a comment about. Not the world
Mm-hmm.
champion yet, but our mid card champions, right?
I say it's part of the meat and
Sometimes,
potatoes.
yeah, mid card champions oftentimes feel like they're more important or their win is more heartfelt than the world title. Because you can see a mid card champion fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting, and you see them chase and chase. Let's just say chase, and it's like that with the world champion. But sometimes we get those feel good moments, and we remember those, and we hold on. And I feel like one of the feel good moments that got ripped away from us. was from none other than
Ah, man.
Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona, as he's goes by now, right?
Yes, sir.
One day I see title reign at WrestleMania. Was this a punishment that he got to take it from, or was it just a fact of saying, "Here you go, we heard you. He can get the title." What say you about this, Ronnie?
I say one of them here, damn. Like,
Yeah, like here.
but
All
no,
right, champ, you got it.
I think during that Vince era, I think Zack Ryder really was getting in trouble for getting over on his own. So like, I don't think that's much of a secret. But hey, it happened. Like, what a way WrestleMania, like, and that was actually his first ever, if I'm not mistaken, his first ever main card WrestleMania match. And then you get to win the Intercontinental Championship in front of 100,000 people, and your dad celebrating you in the ring. Listen, you can say anything you want about that, but you cannot take that moment away from that man. Honestly, 'cause I know I was in that joint going crazy that night when it happened.
And that's what I mean. That feel good moment because we live through these wrestlers because we feel their pain, we feel the heartache, we get so vested in it. And yes, we talk about Zack Ryder being a multi-time champion, but why this made a one-hit wonders list? This is during a time when we were having multiple title reigns for Intercontinental champions. Look at Dolph Ziggler, Kofi Kingston, The Miz, Kevin Owens, John Cena. You name it, they were having multiple title reigns. And even before that, the Jeff Hardys, the Randy Ortons, Edge,
RVD.
Christian, RVD, all these people having multiple title reigns, and he just fighting for that one moment, and it was one day, like we said earlier, meant that much, and that's always going to be something that's remembered because it's a WrestleMania moment, and it was taken away from us the very next day, which is so sad. But when you
It
think about
is.
it, it's like that moment will always be attached to him because he won it in a ladder match, one of the biggest ladder matches in history, right?
That was a good. That was a 7-man, but that was a. They was in there hooping. Like, I ain't even gonna lie. I'm gonna say Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn was in there going crazy. Even
They
Sin
were all
Cara
fighting
showed up
for
in
it,
that match too. So
right? And when you think about these type of things, that's that. Yes, he was in a European. I'm sorry, U.S. champion, but that Intercontinental title win stands out as that. Boom. That's one of those iconic moments, right?
mhm.
And when you think about there are other people and there's other things like when it comes to the Intercontinental title, not a lot of people realize that Ken Shamrock only held the title one time. Being the most dangerous man, I'm sorry, the world's most dangerous man, you would think that he'd had the title multiple times, but no, he had the Intercontinental title one time. Yes, he was a tag team champion too. And that's probably what a lot of people get confused on because he was a dual champion, but he only had the Intercontinental title one time. When we think about the legend of DDP, I'm gonna quiz you. Do you remember the one title that he held in WWE?
European
Well,
Championship.
bingo. You
Come on,
remember,
man. That's
right?
one of my favorite titles. Now, he didn't win it at WrestleMania 18. I think he defended it against Christian, or did he win it from Christian?
I think he won it from Christian, but I think he defended it at 18.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
almost
I
sure
say
he
'cause
did. I might have to.
I think he won it from Christian. I say, but I know he definitely defended him because I watched WrestleMania 18 a lot of times. So, like, yeah, I know for sure.
You said I remember that match.
That's like that was just
And
that
for
whole
us,
night. It said the hardcore title shenanigans and all that.
and with him being, and I'm saying the legend of DDP because DDP came later in his career and he showed that he could still hang. Former WCW champion, no, I'm sorry, WCW World Champion, three times, right? He was a three-time WCW champion and a former tag team champion in WCW. But in WWE, this is his one hit that you're like, oh, okay, this works. Yes, we can talk about the tag team during the invasion with Chris Canyon, but who really remembers that? Because they remember that singles match and that time that he was the European champion.
Mm-hmm.
That one hit, Brother Justin.
Yes, sir.
Could it have been for any other title, or do you think it was right with just being for that title?
I mean, you could have put the Intercontinental Championship on him at the time, but the that division was actually a little deep. I say you had William Regal, RVD, um, No, I was about to say Chris Jericho, but he was like fighting for the world titles at the time too. But
Hmm.
yeah, but
Definitely
how to
William
say
Regal,
this? But
Eddie
like that for the
Guerrero.
other belt, this was before he came back though, right? Or after?
That was before he came back. I think that was
Oh, okay.
before he got released, and then because remember when he came back, he
Yeah,
was close up to high
yeah. Because I know
higher
he was
card.
gone for a while at the time. But I think because I don't think there was too much going on with the European Championship at the time, especially since it was like a
It
couple
was the
months
William
away
Regal
from going
title.
defunct. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the William Regal title.
Yeah. Plus, it was a couple months away from going being merged together with the Intercontinental Championship anyway. So, why not? If there was no other room else, then why not? The world
Good point.
title picture was busy because you still had Rock and Austin going at it. Then Chris Jericho got in the mix. Then Triple H came back. Like there was a lot going on with every other title. So I think the European was the perfect forum. Like, why not?
Okay. Now, before we round out this mid card division, there's a person that I feel like you have to talk about, especially because we've been talking about. Um, well, there's a couple people. Carlito won the U.S. title during his debut match, right? You remember who he
Mhm.
beat? Do 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 do.
Yes,
And
sir.
it's kind of like I think he received that because, and this is not me being culturally insensitive. This is me giving flowers. I think because he was considered like Puerto Rican royalty because his
Mhm.
wrestling background, his family, the Colognes, everything they did there. I think Vince McMahon was paying tribute and say, "Yep, I know what he can do. I get what he can do. Boom, we're going to trust him with it." Um, Ahmed Johnson being the first African American IC champion, right? Yes, injury caused that to fall short, right? And then we got to talk about even though this man held, and I'm gonna say this with a grain of salt, he was a one-time tag champ and a multi-time hardcore champion. But I think we thought people don't realize we thought that this was going to be a big deal because he was a former ECW champion, right?
Mhm.
Him and Spike Dudley out of nowhere became that, and a lot of people only remember that hardcore title reign, and that was definitely the only hit during this era. Because I think he came too late into WWE, and like you said, it was too much other stuff surrounding it.
Right.
So when it comes to things like this, like especially when I talk about Carlito, um, let's say Ahmed Johnson, was it shocking to see that Taz didn't get more, especially knowing what he did in ECW, or do you think this was just enough?
Yeah. So I say I was not grown up because I was about 4 when Taz came to WWE. Like I didn't know he was really like that in ECW. Like when I grew up and actually like went back and saw what he was doing in ECW, I'm like, damn, like that dude really could have been like a machine. Like not if not the world championship, like multi-time intercontinental champion at least. Like, and I loved him on commentary. Like, don't get me wrong, but like I didn't know he was really like that. So I don't know what exactly went wrong with him, like why they didn't put him in the ring more, or like he chose to go and do commentary more. Like I'm not sure what happened there, but I think if I'm going back based off of like what I've seen, what he can do, like yeah, oh yeah, for sure, like he could have been a multiple time champion at least.
And see, and that's it's crazy because look at this comment, right? We had a light heavyweight championship round, right? And it says one reign for the Dynamite Kid as WWF Junior Heavyweight Champion, and that tells you during that time frame because it was the WWF before they made it the light heavyweight. Because I think they retired that belt and then made the light heavyweight. We totally forgot about that
I didn't
championship and
know
the
that. I didn't
Dynamite
know
Kid.
that championship existed.
Yeah, that
I
was
thought I was always
remember
thought
when
it
they
was
had
the light heavyweight.
it was the one because remember, if you look at the lineage, was retired. It came back as a different name. That was,
Oh,
and I
okay.
might get fact checked. Let me just make sure. I think that was when they were doing a lot of partnership with New Japan and Japanese wrestling. So that's where that came from. And then I got to show this one because Smitty said the game was watching all. I'm gonna leave that on the screen frame. Oh, so to your comment, Pan says, I used to go to ECW between 1996 and 1998 all the time. He should have got it pushed more than WWF. Now I got a question for you. Was it because of how he came in and he went right after the big dog and seeing a 5 foot, I don't know how tall Taz is, compared to a 6 foot person, it felt like, is that really a credible threat? Kurt Angle made himself credible through his wrestling, and we saw what Kurt Angle could do because they showed us on screen. Taz was
Mm.
just given to us. So I'm just wondering if that was probably the case. So, and it's
Now
interesting.
that you
We always
mention
talk
this,
about, yeah, now
oh,
that you think about it. And we can talk about that because think about it. Kurt Angle, we watched him progress. Then Taz was just presented to us, and we're like, all right, why should we care about this human
he had a
suplex
hell of a debut
machine?
though. I had to say, he showed up Royal Rumble 2000. He went to work on Kurt Angle, so he had
Right,
a
because
great
that's what's
debut.
that.
So I'm like, I want to know what. And then like the stuff he was doing, like in the hardcore championship division, like that was cool too. But like, I really think like he could have did more. Like he's like that dude's a machine. But also at the time, this is still Vince we talking about, and he had a thing for size. No Diddy, but not to say if you aren't like a real big guy, he's not or like super charismatic like a Kurt Angle. Like he wasn't really checking for you like that. So like all right, he'll put you over here and like, well, I guess he didn't see him as a main eventer or whatnot.
And it's crazy because I know that he meant, and he corrected himself. Taz was built like a fire plug. Yes, and the thing is, we were accepting of different sizes because how he was presented. Because the Radicals weren't 6 foot giants, but how they were presented, they built their way up to the larger than life superstars. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like Jericho didn't. He came in to contest the Rock, but look how long it took for them to actually have a wrestling match. He worked his way up to it. You know, same thing with Chris Benoit. He worked his way up. Eddie Guerrero worked his way up to it. He didn't come in just fighting the Big Show. No, he had to work his way up to it. You know what I mean? And the thing
I say, and
is,
those smaller guys had to work almost 2-3 times harder as like the bigger guys to get seen.
mhm. So, and that's where I think a lot of it, and I really wanted us to really focus on those one hits because that's what it's about. Those one hits that you might say, you know what, they never got another chance with that title. They didn't get a chance with another title, but we remember these moments because of what it led up to. Um, and it's a good thing because now we can go back to in time and we can think about certain things because now I think it's time to talk about the main title. Now, this is not degrading any other championship, but let's talk about world championships, right? Ooh, brother. You know what I'm gonna go after, right? First, right?
I hope we thinking the same thing.
Well, go ahead. Go ahead. What you think?
Why, oh, why did Jack Swagger have to be the world champion in 2010?
I wasn't going there, but okay. Let's talk about it now.
Okay, all right.
All right, go ahead. Break it on down.
In that
What
Money
happened
in the
there?
Bank match, there was
Mm-hmm.
10 people. Biggest Money in the Bank match ever. You
Mm-hmm.
had Kane, Shelton Benjamin, Christian. I would have even took Matt Hardy. But like Shelton Benjamin, especially like at that point outside of WrestleMania 23, he was in every single Money in the Bank match at that point. And Shelton Benjamin is somebody that was, in my opinion, very overlooked in there for a really, really long time. And I think if you are willing to give Jack Swagger that world title run, like you already saw what he did with the ECW championship, and that didn't really go anywhere. So it was like, all right, so let's give him the world championship. And that obviously didn't go anywhere because he lost it 2 months later to Rey Mysterio in that fatal 4-way match. But like, if you was going to give like just a token world title run to somebody, like at least give it to Shelton Benjamin because I think that would have been at least more entertaining, at least, and he could have did something a little bit more with it. But seeing how the story was going, like with Kane and like him trying to frame Rey Mysterio who attacked the Undertaker at the time, I guess I'm so. Yeah, if it was just gonna be a token world title run, like at least give it to Shelton Benjamin at that
But
point. Like
see,
why
that's
Jack
where
Swagger?
so we got to think about that, right? In the old days, it seemed like there was always a cookie cutter of wrestlers, right? We were like even saying now, Vince McMahon was always looking for the next Rey Mysterio. So he
Mhm.
went and got all the Rey Mysterios he could. All right, at one time he said, "Give me all of them," until he found the next Rey Mysterio. But you really couldn't find it, right? And so now they're saying it with Penta. When you talk about Rey Mysterio, you have to talk. They're trying to make it like it's equal playing field, but we're seeing things like that. So with Jack Swagger, it was like the next Kurt Angle, right? The next American, the next this, the next wrestler that we could push. But it was like a cautionary thing, and it was like, yeah, he won the Money in the Bank. We're gonna give him the secondary World Championship, not the WWE, but the World Title, the big gold, because that's kind of like the workhorse. Try it out. Let's see how it goes with that. Or hey, I don't have nothing for you. Go over here and help build up people. Because who did he take the world title from? That's all I'm gonna say. Um, but it shows how these moments don't always translate into meaningful reigns. Because after 82 days, it was like, no, we got to put the belt on somebody that we know will put eyes on the product and not be a spice that's called flour. And that's what Jack Swagger felt like during that time. So,
Mhm.
yeah, a lot of people remember him for that. And this comes to say, I know he had an interview today and I haven't had a chance to watch it. I'm pretty sure we'll talk about it tomorrow on the Rest From Now podcast. What he said on, was it Chris Van Leek? Chris Van Leek, he did his show and he talked about his future. But I don't want to harp on him because we can talk about that because the ECW title ratio showed us it's not right. If Christian couldn't get you over, that's pretty bad.
I say don't
Because,
diss the Jack Swagger because I heard
yeah,
he's starting a trucking company. I ought to say, and a fellow trucker. So I'm like, all right, respect.
yeah.
So
And so let's just do this because I'm going to take us way back. But since we're going to end with the way back stuff because I feel like we got to go on a history lesson. I can't not address this. So when we think about this, and brother Hugh, this will make you feel better. I hope your finger is good to go, and I hope you're not still trying to polish your belts. But brother Justin, you
yes, sir.
talking about one hit wonders, not the fact that he's had 746 titles. This one hit, the one time he was the WWF champion in 1998, Attitude Era, right? What we talked about. This moment is probably the one that people will continue to talk about Kane, no matter how many times he was world champion. When he won the ECW title, wasn't like 60 seconds at WrestleMania.
6 seconds.
6 seconds,
Nice.
okay.
They came in, chokeslam Chavo, and left. And I said that was it. I'm like,
Yeah.
all right.
He won a battle royal the night before. He did that. We're not going to talk about the Brothers of Destruction. We're not going to talk about his Intercontinental title reign. We're not going to talk about when he got outmasked. People always go back to this moment. And it's exactly what a one hit wonder looks like because with all his success, he never got that belt again. He had one reign with that belt that lasted one day. How important was this to that era that that happened?
I don't know. You're gonna have to ask Hugh about that next time you see him. I say I'm pretty sure he'll go on a 2 hour tangent about it. But while I will give him just the image of Kane holding the big blue eagle, that was a saucy pick. I can't even get mad at that. Like he was dripping sauce right there.
Yes, and that's what I said. Everybody
Like you know what?
remembers
That's worth it
that.
because that's an image I see that a lot. That's a very mean picture, and it pops up
Mhm.
on like those like pages with like them history pages with wrestling and all that. That's a saucy pick. So if for a 24-hour reign, that was worth it. It counts.
And I guarantee if you Google Kane, WWE or WWF, that's probably the first picture that comes up because
Hmm.
that's that moment. And when you think about it, he came, he won the title. Yes, he lost the next night on Raw, but it was a big deal and a big moment. And I'm gonna have to make Hugh do a short so he can talk about that moment and how impactful
You
it
know that
was.
ain't
I
gonna
don't
be a
want to take it
short.
away from. Yeah, he gonna go off about it. But when we talk about that, right? Somebody like Psycho Sid, yes, he had two, but people only remember the one, right? We talked about Jack Swagger. Maybe he was in the wrong era. I don't know if Jack Swagger could find an era that he would belong in, but
Mm,
mm, yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about that. People seem to forget, and I'm gonna go back. Let me just say this about Psycho Sid: 97 days. You could tell he was a transitional champion, and not a lot of people remember it, but it was bringing the era of the big man kind of like to a close almost, and we were moving into something else, right? when
Mhm.
we talk about those type of things, that's kind of what we're want to dive into. But if you talk about one hits, there's a couple people. Now, do you want? Let's just stay in this era. I mean, let's just stay in the current era, right? Of course, I
Mhm.
want to talk about Christian, but he was the world champion, his world title. We want to talk about how Randy Orton took it from him. That was sad for me. We can talk about that, but
Yeah.
you can't talk about one hit wonders without talking about someone that had one hit with both of these things. Now,
The
I
sauce.
know in the comments, I know in the comments people watched ECW. I knew we knew that. You couldn't talk about ECW without talking about the whole effing show, RVD, right? This man forced WWE, and I'm gonna say this, and it might be true, it might be a Unreal episode coming up or whatever, but you gotta believe he forced WWE to change their plans. I do believe if you look at this time frame, he was going to be awarded the ECW championship. But because of the momentum of that Money in the Bank briefcase that he had and the fan outpour, and I remember seeing that John Cena when we riot, being in the home of ECW, everything about this said if RVD don't get that top prize, I don't think the WWE would have survived that night. It would have been a PR nightmare. John Cena threw his shirt on the crowd. People threw it right back. People remember that match because of all of those moments surrounding it. RVD had decorated the briefcase. He made you say, okay, I'm going to go in here against the top WWE guy, the flag bearer. And I was the flag bearer for ECW. I had that brand on my back. I'm going, and I'm telling you, Vince McMahon had to make sure that he got that title because it's an ECW original one up against a WWF original. Brother Justin, with all that said, was this single reign more impactful or more forgettable because of how short it was?
Oh, it was impactful. RVD, I would his level of overness is I will almost put it like next to Jeff Hardy at the time. Cause we all love Jeff Hardy. Like, especially like this was right before he had came back to WWE. So like we didn't have Jeff Hardy at the time. Cause I don't think too many people was like really banging with TNA at the time or whatever he was doing in between time. But RVD was that dude. Like the colorful gear, like he was marketable, like he was moving merch. He was over everywhere that he went, and then that Money in the Bank win, like setting up the match at One Night Stand, like that was a chef's kiss. Like I think it was perfect, and I don't think any other person is can say that they held the WWE Championship and the ECW Championship at the exact same time.
But remember, that's what brought back the ECW title. He was
Mm-hmm.
awarded that championship. And yes, we can talk about the moment that surrounded it. He had to lose it, and it was, an abrupt loss. Okay. But he never got back. I feel like RVD never got back to this moment or this height. This was the height of RVD, no matter when he was TNA champion. And yes, we remember this because RVD made the ECW television championship relevant. That was his belt. I don't
So he was
I
like the
would
longest
challenge
reigning
anybody.
champion, wasn't he?
Yeah, and no matter what happened, you remember him with ECW, you remember him with that belt. That was the RVD belt. It is insane because a lot of these things, when we talk about one hit wonders, that's exactly what it was. That moment will stand the test of time because when you can do a whole documentary on from when he won Money in the Bank to that match, because I remember the person threw the thing back threw Cena's shirt back at him. That will always
Man,
come on now. John
dude
Cena
was
shirt, and you
serious
mean
that
Cena
night.
threw it back? Right, they was
He
ready.
threw the birds at him. I had to say that man was he got his money worth that night.
And that crowd was electric. They let their feelings be heard. They let their voices be heard. You couldn't deny the fact that you knew it was serious because they wanted their guy to win. And let's see, Shannon said, is it safe to say RVD was the best ECW crossover all time?
Hands down.
I think he was
I
the
wouldn't argue that.
biggest flag bearer. Yeah, he waved the flag the most, more than the Dudleys. I wouldn't say that because the Dudleys were synonymous with ECW, but RVD was ECW. So I would agree with that. Um, I would agree with that. And the thing is, he proved that he could do it. He proved that when you give him the ball, watch what happens. Similar to our next person that we got to talk about. Um, I remember now. This is going to be a special moment because I remember going. During this time frame, and I'm taking back to 2004. Wrestling was kind of on a slope, right? And during this time, you knew the road to WrestleMania began at the Royal Rumble. You knew whoever won the Royal Rumble was going to challenge for the world title or the Undisputed Championship slash WWF Championship, right? I'm sorry, it was the WWE Championship, but it was the version, the Undisputed version. That's where trying to put you back in the mind frame. So we knew who won the Royal Rumble that year and was challenging for the Raw title. So that left SmackDown without a challenger. But we had a pay per view called No Way Out. Um, and No Way Out was in the month before WrestleMania. We
Mm-hmm.
got to see this man cut a passionate promo about why he needed this, why it was a necessity. We got to see a former Intercontinental, former European, former cruiserweight, former everything saying he needed this. This was his addiction. We had seen the releases, the comebacks. We've seen the mullet, Eddie to the short hair. You know, he he's going to be remembered as one of the most beloved stars because of this leading up to this moment. And you talking about an emotional victory when he won against Brock Lesnar, who was the biggest bad guy that we had in WWE at the time. You could see the people erupting with tears of joy. You could see them being inspired because of his story. And this championship win kind of immortalized his career. Now, granted, tragedy happened. We didn't get to see if he could do something else, but we got to see his reign and what he could do with that championship. And when given the ball, we saw what he could do. Because it wasn't a person at No Way Out there. Probably wasn't rooting for Eddie. Because I
Mm-hmm.
remember watching that saying, come on, Eddie, he got to do it. And when the pin happened, I said, oh my gosh, this was done right.
Man,
Brother,
this was beautiful.
do you think with could this moment have happened without anybody else besides Brock Lesnar?
Not at all. Let me say because outside of Triple H was already tied up on Raw, like who else was like the biggest heel in the company at the time? Like, and then like they had like a perfect little situation with Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, so that was kind of like bleeding into. So you had to get the title off of him because Goldberg wasn't challenged with the title. So you slide Eddie in, and that made for a perfect moment. And then Eddie deserves that. Like he literally fought through hell to get to that moment. And this was one of the things I could like really appreciate about that time because like when I was growing up, like we didn't have like cable or couldn't get like none of the pay-per-views and stuff. So we used to watch SmackDown on Thursday nights. You'll see it, and then you gotta like really wait for the next week to see what happened at the pay-per-view. So all weekend you just kind of anticipating and like wondering like what's gonna happen, and like some of your friends are talking about it at school, and you sit there trying to avoid the spoilers all week to get to the SmackDown the next week, and then you see that open and highlight package, and you see what happened at the pay per view. Then the big celebration he came out with the confetti, and like, oh my god, that was a beautiful
And
moment, man. He deserved that so much, and he
and
that's
this
all
is
he really needed.
and this was one reign to remember because just like Shannon said, this is oops, thought I put it on screen. His promo we're gonna remember. Um and I know Nip Ram from Four Sides of the Ring says sometimes the promos outweigh the match. I think that this promo forced the match because you felt it now. You knew what he was fighting for. He talked about his addiction. He leaned into real life and said, yeah, I do. I have addiction. It's this. You know what I mean? It was like you could just feel it. And even though it was against Brock Lesnar and it was at No Way Out leading into WrestleMania, it had to make it so that this moment was so impactful because Eddie had a way of connecting with the fans, and through his wrestling, you remember the whole thing about it. And when I say this is one ring to room, that's another documentary that you can see. Not the life of Eddie Guerrero, but just that championship win to the point. Everybody has a story. This is one of those times where we saw a signature series for Hulk Hogan, HBK, Shawn Michaels, these multiple time champions, these larger than life, Undertaker, Rock. But guess what? Eddie Guerrero got up a
Hmm.
signature series that won, the undisputed title. Remember, it hasn't been back since it got released. So that tells you how important this moment was. So, brother,
Yes,
we
sir.
gonna be here all night. But we still got to talk about a couple because now we're gonna rewind time a little, right? And when I say rewind time, I want you to think about something, right? We talk about WWE. I'm gonna just say WWF championships, right? And I was talking about the world championships, right? There's a few people that you can't talk about wrestling without saying their name, right? And anybody doing, I'm gonna just call it the Hulkamania era, right? There
Golden
had to
era.
be some people, yeah, they'll there, right?
Hmm.
There's one guy that comes to mind that's a one-hit wonder, not only with this title, but a secondary title as well, right? It's a reason that he was such a joy to watch, so energetic, and we saw where, hey, not only did he have his one title as Intercontinental, but he held that WWF Championship one time as well against who? Think about that. So now
Hmm.
we have a situation where a larger than life star has now put your eyes on that product because look what it was. The grandest stage of it all, right? Dethroning our champion, our person who has made wrestling what made us pay attention to wrestling, right? WrestleMania
Six.
was it? Thank you. I was drawing
Hmm.
up like, why was I going to say nine? That daggone on Hollywood. Hollywood had got me thinking everything happened at WrestleMania 9. WrestleMania 6, right? Title versus title match. He was defending his Intercontinental title and he was going up against for the World Championship. Now, as short as it was, and when I say short, let me just say this. This is during a time that title reigns were getting smaller, like about a year or less. Because it was like, give this person the ball, let's see if they are a draw. If they're not a draw, we got to go back. We got to do something different, right? So
Yep.
for about a year, but then we realized, something just ain't clicking. And I don't want to take nobody's image or anything, but as the story being told, things have happened, right? But at that time, was it the right time for him to be a double champion?
Why not? I mean, you gotta keep building new stars at that point. And if there was ever a way to like build a new star, why not have him beat your top star? Like not even just top champion, your top star in the industry. And at the time, the biggest main event in WrestleMania that you could have put on at the time, like title for title, two just ginormous meat mountains of men. Like
Big meaty
you,
men slapping me.
that's what I'm saying. The Big E special. Yeah, like this. If you really wanted to like show like here, like this is our new top star, then why not go for it? And one thing I can appreciate the Ultimate Warrior for is the white strap on the Wing Eagle. Like that's a pretty one. I dig
Oh,
it.
he had a lot of different colors, and this
Hmm.
point says it's very rare that two baby faces faced off against each other, and that was an anomaly at that time. Because when we
Super
think
anomaly.
about, yeah, because even when you think about things, let's go back a little bit more, right? And that was 1990, right? Now, arguably through like 88 to like, might as well say forever, Hulk Hogan had a reign that was always, you know, let's give it to somebody else. Let's see if they can do it. Or how do we build up the hero? And there's one villain that comes to mind that literally the day after Christmas in New York, Tiki Baby won the title. He won the title from Bob Backlund. Now, mind you, mentioned about how back in the day the wrestlers would have long reigns because the way we consume wrestling was different. So they might be on the road instead of being on TV 3, 4 days a week, they might be on the road multiple times in a month, right? And you would
Mhm.
see the same match. You might have the same match in New York that you had in Maryland that you had in North Carolina, whatever it may be,
Right.
right? Bob Backlund was coming off a 14, I think it was like 1,400-day reign, and the plan, of course, was to get it on Hogan, but can't get it from Backlund to Hogan, so into the Iron Sheik, right? He made Bob Backlund submit, right?
Hmm.
And well, of course, you can talk about the towel being thrown in, whatever it may be, but it was at Madison Square Garden, right? Iron Sheik, one-time champion. Was he the right heel for Hulk Hogan? Talk to me, brother.
Absolutely. I had to say, like, it's Americana versus the big foreign villain. Like, this that story writes itself. And at the time, like, people were super patriotic. So of course, like, you have Hogan, who's being built up as the perfect babyface, versus Iron Sheik, who was the perfect heel at the time. So that could not have been like a more like lightning in a bottle, strike while the iron's hot moment I can think of. Like, that was right place, right time, right moment for sure.
hmm And it's crazy because we saw how good of a heel because it was such a feel-good moment when the hero prevailed. And we can laugh and may he rest. But as many times we got a kick out of his tweets, as many times we got a kick out of him being in different things. You hear the stories about it. This man made us fall in love with the Hulkamania of the situation because of the way he made us hate seeing him.
Right.
and and that's something that you can't his his one title wasn't overshadowed by his persona, his wrestling ability, everything that you ever said, like his character work. That one title was to make sure it propelled what we enjoy wrestling to now. And that's why I think a
Hmm.
lot of people miss that. Yes, it might have been a one champion because think about this. Sometimes all it takes is one.
Hmm.
Think about how we celebrate Ron Simmons because of his one WCW world title run and because he was the first black WCW world champion. That one is going to transcend time and that will always be attached to history for him. And we're always going to remember that as great of a wrestler he is, that was like, yes, that's our moment. You know what I'm saying? And it's to the point that, yes, we could talk about Kofi and Big E's one title reign, but if it wasn't for Ron Simmons, then we probably wouldn't have gotten to celebrate the Kofi and the Big E type of situation. Because yes, they one hit wonders with WWE Championship. Might not ever see a Kofi one. Hope Big E's neck is fine. But the point I'm trying to make, because of that, that's how we enjoy wrestling. And there's one other person when you think about these things, right? Here's some controversy for you, all right?
Oh, I'm gonna learn
We
something right
know,
now.
yeah, we know the record books when you talk about Stan Stasiak, right? Ooh, buddy. All right. So, brother Justin,
Hmm.
answer this question for me. Who is Pedro Morales? Let's see. I'm testing your wrestling knowledge. It's okay if you don't know much about him, but all right. So let me give you a
Now,
little
was
backstory.
I wasn't not because I was about to say he was the first, but no, that was Buddy Rogers. I
No. So
believe
Pedro was Go ahead.
the first
So
Puerto
what?
Rican WWE champion.
Yes.
All
So let
right.
me give you the lineage. Buddy Rogers in 1963, first champion. Bruno Sammartino, 1963. Um, call off third. Pedro Morales, first Puerto Rican world champion, and it was the WWF Heavyweight Championship. Um, and this is during the weird time frame of NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance actually being a territory, things like that. And I'm gonna get to the point. So Pedro Morales was champion and had been champion for 1,000+ days. Now, this was not necessarily, it wasn't a big deal for people to be champion this long. It was almost expected because the first reign for Buddy Rogers was to establish it and Bruno Sammartino was the flag bearer, and he had the 2,800-day reign, right? But then Koloff got it, had it for a few. Pedro Morales, the hero, wins it, right?
Hmm.
Now, in order to get the belt back on Bruno, you had to have a transitional champion. I'm not going to get into the details of Stan Sajak, but I will tell you this: it's a lot of controversy surrounding this reign. But without this reign, we don't get Bruno's second reign of 1,200 odd days, which took us to superstar Billy Graham. And this is all in 1973, right? So that's
Right.
where we go on. And then that gets us to Bob Backlund. Then Bob Backlund gets us to the point where we start to get the Iron Sheik and Hogan and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
I just want you to get the idea of that. So without him, and I'm saying this, without this transitional moment, we probably wouldn't be celebrating Bruno Sammartino as much because it did the same thing that Iron Sheik did, in a sense.
Right.
Um, so, and a lot of people always talk about Bruno Sammartino, his title reign, Pedro Morales, Bob Backlund. As great as he was, Bob Backlund had runs that was like, I think his first run was, I might have to be fact checked, like 600 or something days, but then like his other ones were 14 and so forth, right? Um, Stan Sajak, sometimes they'll say he wasn't a champion, sometimes it will be said he was a champion. But from all of the research and what I know as a wrestling fan, he was a transitional champion that doesn't get the credit for helping us get to that point of he took it from a hero in Pedro Morales and transitioned to our next hero of Bruno Sammartino.
Hmm. That's how the cycle goes.
So I just want to make sure. And here, look, here's some things. So I guess while I was doing my rant, um, some of the people in the comments were saying he said Pedro Morales also is the five wrestlers to hold the Intercontinental Championship for a continuous reign more than 1 year. Yes. So that's why I wanted to know that he was Pedro Morales is so important to wrestling because of his accolades, but we needed somebody to get the belt on so we can get it back on the Bruno. You follow me? I hope
Right.
that makes sense. So
I
that's what
don't
we
know.
try to do a
You got it.
championship culture. We try to tell it to you in a way that kind of like you can digest it. Um, and I am going to address a couple of the comments. But should
That's
a
what I said.
transitional
Teach me
champion
something. So
so with that being said, my question to you, brother, this is for anybody in the comments. Should a transitional champion be celebrated because of what the transition brought out, or should they be celebrated because they won the title? If that makes sense. I think he's thinking. You want me to repeat it?
yeah, if I would say that again. Hold up. I
Okay.
drew a blank for a
So
second.
should a transitional champion be celebrated for what the transition was for, or should they be celebrated because they were the champion?
I mean, of course, you get recognition for being a champion, but like you should also be recognized for being a transitional champion too, because in the oldest story, the heel versus the face, every good face needs a good heel to work with. So, and then, like you said, you laid out, the lineage of the same. It always flip flops from like, all right, you got, heel to face, heel to face, heel to face. You got to keep the cycle going. So, for him to be trusted to be the heel to pass it on to Bruno, yeah, of course you should have your recognition for that. And even if it was like, what would you say his reign? How long it went for?
That's AJ. So that's the thing. Some say it was only 9 days. Some say it was seven.
Oh,
It was very short. It was literally just to get
oh,
it off Pedro to get it on Bruno. And
oh,
I
dang.
might have to double check because I believe when they were the WWF, they were under the NWA banner. And I
Mm-hmm.
believe that's what um Perez was saying. Yes, when they were the WWF, that was part of the NWA and part of the National Wrestling Alliance. So and a lot of people don't get if you go back and watch, I think it was season 2 of Championship Culture, we talked about how the territories work. Yes, we had the NWA banner, but we had champions for certain things. That's why it was so many different variations of championship. But that's where Vince McMahon's father was basically acknowledging the territories and was literally part of that. And then he split off, and that's when it was the WWF championship. And when you had the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, that was part of the NWA banner. So yes, I'm correct. It was 9 days. So he was a 9 day champion. And I think they were doing a house show circuit. So the plan was like one show, get it on him, and then the next show was to get it off him. So it was like a rotation of that's why he did it. Um, and then Smitty said that the continuation of the title definitely. Because he should be celebrated because we got that part. Because we got to that. We got to the end goal of Bruno Sammartino. You know what I mean? Without that, how do you get it from there? Because it was always back in those days, the heel and the face. And you got to
Mhm.
keep kayfabe. It wasn't like now where we would see Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior, where we would see a clearly defined heel and a clearly defined face, kind of like how we saw on Raw, where the New Day was fighting the Judgment Day. You had both heel factions, like, well, who am I rooting for? And then it's like one of them, somebody's gonna get cheered. So back in those days, you had to have one bad guy, one good guy, and when you could tell what the outcome was gonna be. So yes, sir. So I'm gonna ask you again. Let me say this to you. Do you think there are other one-hit wonders that may have been more transitional than a one hit?
Jinder Mahal.
I knew it was coming. I was trying to stick away from
Yo.
that. All right, let's.
Yo.
So for
I have
everybody in the
such
comments, let's hear this about gender.
crazy part is like I don't hate Jinder Mahal. I just love Shinsuke Nakamura so much more. And I wanted Shinsuke Nakamura to be the WWE champion. And he beat him like 2 or 3 pay-per-views in a row. I'm like, come on now. Like
Mm.
sitting through that Jinder Mahal reign, like, all right, after the initial moment when he beat Randy Orton, I was like, I was all for it because another thing like those stuff at the wall to see if it sticks. And there was obviously other reason behind it. Like I think they was trying to break the WWE network into India at the time. But I mean, we got a shock moment out of it. Like, who would have thought dude went from literal jobber on Raw back in like March to WWE champion in like May? Like that, it's hilarious. And I was like, we was winning at the time. So like the first like 60 days, 90 days, I was like, all right, cool. So when Shinsuke Nakamura came around, I'm like, all right, cool. I'll even go back to when Baron Corbin won Money in the Bank because I'm a big Baron Corbin fan. Like, I wanted him to be WWE champion as well. Like, there was a lot of other people on SmackDown that I wanted to be champion at the time, other than Jinder Mahal. So when AJ Styles finally got it off of him, I was like, all right, cool. Then we got the good match with him and Brock Lesnar Survivor Series. But like, yeah, that was the second half of that Jinder Mahal reign was tough to sit through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna say another name for you that a lot of people seem to forget. I don't think he was transitional, but similar to what happened with Jinder Mahal, JBL. We was watching him be a cowboy and doing all this stuff, and then it was like all of a sudden he's rich. You know what I mean? I'm like, he's rich. Okay. He's a jerk. Okay. We're getting
JBL
behind
when he
this.
was playing the Border Patrol agent.
All I'm gonna
Oh my
say is
god.
that whole storyline I felt was to make sure that John Cena would be the one to take him down. But and
Mhm.
they also say because Triple H didn't want to work on Thursdays, wasn't that the whole the whole storyline
That was
on there?
hilarious.
Yes. And I'm also gonna throw another name out there. We talked about I'm sorry. We talked about Kofi um and Big E. I think that those moments Kofi was not a transitional, but I think Kofi forced the plans to change. And we can talk about Kofi Mania forever. We know what that happens,
Yes, sir.
but that's what forced it. Um, and we seem to forget that Rey Mysterio won WWF Championship. He's in the record book. He's a champion, even though it was only one
45
day. Well,
minutes.
let's yeah. And still, guess what? He got it. We gonna
Mhm.
remember. We gonna always
I'm
talk
gonna
about
say
that. Be
can't
like,
take it away from him. Same thing with the thing with Kane. I'd say it's in the record
yeah.
books.
And he can always say he's a former WWE champion. And last but not least, of course, yes, he's a 6-time world champion, But he only held the WWE Championship one time while he was there. And that's John Moxley, Dean Ambrose.
Mhm.
All the other Shield members had it, but it's ironic that he won it the same night that Seth took it from Roman, and he took it from him the same night he won Money in the Bank when they were in what you call it, right? It was the
Money
Money
in
in
the
the Bank
Bank in
cash.
Vegas 2016.
Yeah, because that's the same night the Cavaliers won the world title, and I was like, "Yep, what you
Mhm.
guys gonna do that?" I know he is, and of course with his um all the news of Bray Wyatt, the anniversary of Bray Wyatt, of course, him being a one-time WWE champion, really can't count him because he was a multi-time Universal champion. So, on that notion, is there any other one-hit wonders in any other titles or any other championship? And this is for everybody in the comments too, that we might have missed or we might have even touched on because I think that the list is going to keep growing. I think there's going to be people that we want to see. But brother Justin, any
I
other
think I
one-hit wonders
can.
that we might have missed?
Now, when you say
I
might have
think we got it.
missed, or no, I'm saying when you say like we might have missed, or maybe what could have been,
Let's
because
talk about what
I'm
could have been.
thinking of,
Go into that.
and I'm looking at it right now, sitting on my shelf, Finn Balor. If he did not get injured, I wonder what his Universal Championship reign would have been like. And it's crazy the butterfly effect that wind up having on it. Like we go from Finn, like I really want to see where that would have went because who would have said that Kevin Owens would have ever been Universal Champion if Finn Balor would have never got injured? Then it might have happened anyway, but who's to say that Goldberg would have been the one to beat Kevin Owens for it and then switch it to Brock Lesnar?
And it's crazy
So,
because Finn Balor and Kevin Owens are the only two Grand Slam champions to only hold that title as Universal champions. And now, Hugh likes to call him my uncle, is in the comments. I wish he could come on so he could explain this. He said, "Come on, Lee, but how about Tommy Rich NWA win?" See, we didn't dive into NWA because this is why I need you. So when you back to 100%, sir, we're gonna have to do other promotions because Ben Walker from Championship Belt Brothers and Championship Figure Brothers, um, who's the creator, moderator, you name it. This man knows more about NWA, IWGP. If you got a random belt question that you might need to, you can check him out on, I think, season one and season two of Championship Culture. We talked about the network logo. This man is a wealth of wrestling knowledge that will blow your mind. He probably can tell us all the one hit wonders from NWA, IWGP, Pro Wrestling Noah, um, all the promotions that you wouldn't think about. He probably has that knowledge, and he'll just start spitting it off. So, and I'm gonna just say this: leave it better than you found it. That's his catchphrase. Just putting it out there.
mhm,
So
learn
definitely check
something.
him out on Facebook of Championship Belt Brothers and Championship Figure Brothers. Trust me, you will not be disappointed in these conversations there. Kind of like you shouldn't be disappointed with this one hit wonder conversation. Brother Justin,
Yes, sir.
this show, this should show you that wrestlers don't need 10 title reigns to make history, right?
Nope.
Sometimes all it takes is one day in some cases. Sometimes it might only take what you say, 45 minutes. But all it takes is one shot, one moment, one reign that will live forever. That's what makes wrestling so special. And I know you say every belt has a story, and that's definitely the case with a lot of these wrestlers. Some stories are different. Some championships build legacies through their longevity. Others become unforgettable through that one big moment. But before we get out of here, tell people where they can find you. Prototype 619.
Well, you can find me at for the Prototype 619 on YouTube as my channel name. And I've been hitting the streets this summer, so I got some things uploaded from the shows that I've been to because I went to All In, SummerSlam, Money in the Bank, um, Worlds Collide. I didn't put anything on there. It was able, yeah, we was outside this summer. Also on Twitter at Prototype 619. I'm always sharing some random funny stuff on there. And you can find me here in the comment section every Tuesday if I don't have to work. So the next day. So if I'm up, I'm on the show.
All right. And you know what? And it's crazy because if you think Justin's not at a show, he's probably there. Um, And I will tell you this: if you are free on Wednesday, make sure you tune into the Wrestling Realm Now podcast, where it'll be the full cast of all the brothers. We'll be talking about everything happening in pro wrestling. And as the Wrestling Realm grows, got to plug that we have a new show by none other than the Realness. It's called Realness Reacts. First episode was uploaded last Thursday. Um, go check it out. He talks about Unreal. And I will suggest to you, don't just listen to it. Sit down, cut it on TV, and watch it. Because every Wednesday, he's going to give us notes about this show, and then we're going to probably get a preview about what Thursday will be. So Tuesday, you got Championship Culture. Wednesday, the flagship show, The Wrestling Around Now. And of course, Thursday is Realness Reacts. Now, sometimes on Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday, or whatever current events, you will receive different things from the creator, Brian H. Warder. Sometimes he talks about is breaking it down with Brian H. Waters. Sometimes we'll get wrestling for the culture, or you'll get him just popping his camera up and letting you know some of his thoughts. But trust me, when the wrestling realm is here, we got plenty of content for you to follow. So I'm gonna leave everybody with this. Who's your favorite one hit wonder? Make sure you post it in the comments because when you comment your thoughts or a question, we will get back. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss a chance or an episode of Championship Culture. Follow us on all social media platforms. And don't forget, tune in every Tuesday. At what time, Justin?
8:05 p.m. Eastern time, right here on these YouTube streets.
Uh, yes, sir. And we make sure we're here until next time. Keep your eyes on the gold. And remember, every belt has a story. And I can't wait to hear yours.